Now, this may be one of the most interesting stories you've ever heard, but most likely you've never noticed it in the Bible. This is a story about fallen angels, giants, and a righteous man named Enoch who never died. Welcome to part 1 of the Days of Noah series. Now, concerning that day and hour, no one knows, neither the angels in heaven nor the Son, except the Father only. As the days of Noah were, so the coming of the Son of Man will be. Matthew chapter 24, verse 37. So not only will the end days be like the days of Noah, but it's going to be worse. For at that time there will be a great tribulation, the kind that hasn't taken place from the beginning of the world until now and never will again. Matthew chapter 24, verse 21. So people have always had issues with a loving God flooding the entire world, killing everyone except for Noah and his family. Now we know that the flood happened not only because it's in the Bible, but because there are over 250 stories all over the world of a worldwide flood. 2 witnesses in a courtroom mean the statement is true. 250 stories all over the world about a flood mean the statement is very true. But if God is a just judge, then there had to be something going on all over the world that makes so many people corrupt. Let's dive into the scripture. Now, according to Genesis chapter 5, we start to see the family records from the lineage of Seth, who was Adam's son. And throughout the records, you start to see a pattern. Adam lived 930 years, then he died. Seth lived 807 years, and then he died. Enoch's life lasted 365 years. He walked with God, and then God took him away. So Enoch never died. You got to remember that. Now skip to Genesis chapter 6 and look at verses 1 through 4. It says, the sons of God saw that the daughters of man were beautiful, and they took any of them they chose as wives for themselves. Now it sounds good, but listen closely to the next statement. And the Lord said, my spirit will not remain with mankind forever, because they are corrupt. And now the confusing part. The Nephilim were on the earth both in those days and afterwards, when the sons of God came to the daughters of man who bore children to them. So the Nephilim? Huh? You know, is there anything about who the Nephilim actually are? Well, the King James Version does make it a little bit more clear. The King James translation says there were giants in the earth in those days and also after that. So wait a minute, giants. So what do you mean? Well, the Jewish historian Flavius Josephus will really shock you with his commentary on Genesis chapter 6. He stated, for 7 generations, these people continued believing in God as the master of the universe. But then they fell into vice and depravity. Some, born of angels who had consorted with women, resembled the audacious giants of Greek mythology. So now the plot thickens, okay? Not only are we talking about giants, but we're talking about them as a creation of the fallen angels who consorted with human women. Really? Now, to prove that this is true, we actually have to look at more scripture, because there are actually 3 different theories about Genesis chapter 6. Now, the first theory is that the sons of God were actually righteous men, but that they were lured by seductive women out of Cain's lineage. Pretty much, you can blame the woman. Never goes good. Oh. Now, the second theory is that the sons of God were actually kings and rulers, but why would God be so angry with them, and who are the Nephilim? Now, the third theory was the one we just discussed, that the sons of God were actually fallen angels. Now, the fallen angel theory is actually the oldest view. It is supported by a lot of early Christian writers, the Book of Enoch, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and the New Testament. Okay, so let's go. Sons of God in Scripture. So let's look at the book of Job, chapter 1, verse 6. This is what it says. It says, one day the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them. Job chapter 2, verse 1. One day the sons of God came again to present themselves before the Lord, and the Satan also came with them to present himself before the Lord. Job chapter 38, verse 7. While the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy. So in all 3 scriptures, the title, the sons of God, are actually in reference to angels. And what makes it more compelling is that the actual phrase is sons of Elohim, which is also found out of Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 4. Now in Jude chapter 6, verse 7, it also states that these angels rebelled against God. Let me read you the verse. These angels did not keep their own positions, but deserted their proper dwelling. In the same way, Sodom and Gomorrah committed sexual immorality and practiced perversions just as they did. Now, the main rebuttal against this whole theory is out of the book of Mark, chapter 12, verse 25. For when they rise from the dead, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like the angels in heaven. But this does not refer to the fallen angels who rebelled against God, because the passage is talking about the angels who are in heaven. Remember, Jude chapter 6 verse 7 stated that they left their proper dwelling. Now, for all this to make sense, we have to prove that the Nephilim are actually giants. So we're going to need more information than just the King James translation or Flavius Josephus. But the best example is out of the book of Numbers, chapter 13. The land we passed through to explore is one that devours its inhabitants. And all the people we saw in it are men of great size. We even saw the Nephilim there, the offspring of the Enoch. To ourselves we seem like grasshoppers, and we must have seemed the same to them. So now maybe you understand why the Israelites were so afraid to conquer the promised land, because there were giants around the area. Now remember, the verse that we just read explains that the Nephilim were actually related to the Enoch. Listen to this. Deuteronomy chapter 1 verse 28 tells us, the people are larger and taller than we are. The cities are large, fortified to the heavens, but we also saw the descendants of the Anakim there. And there's more. 2 Samuel chapter 21 talks a great deal about these giants, including Goliath and a bronze spear that weighed about 8 pounds. Now, King Og is found out of Deuteronomy chapter 3:11, and it stated that his bed was 13 feet, 6 inches long, and 6 feet wide. In fact, what is amazing is that this city of King Og is still here today, and the stones are so big that modern machinery cannot move it. We have another comment from Flavius Josephus where he said this: these giants had bodies so large they were different from normal men. They were surprising to the sight and terrible to the hearing. These bones are still shown to this very day. Now, believe it or not, finding giant remains used to be a common thing until recent years, when the Smithsonian took over and actually took all the remains of the giants and hid them. They stated that it does not support their theory of evolution, so they're not going to show them.
Basically, you have from just the Genesis account of these fallen angels having sex with earth women, producing, again, a race of incredible people. You know, everybody's heard of David and Goliath, yes. But what they don't know is that Goliath had, 4 brothers, and these guys all had 6 fingers, 6 toes. There's a guy named Og, O-G, not a hard name to remember, and some scholars place him at 18 feet tall. So from the Genesis account in the Old Testament through all of the the historical accounts through the different continents, whether you're dealing with South America, whether you're dealing with North America, the Europeans, the Asians, the Australians, the Greeks, everybody has got their records, their bones. And, interestingly enough, the Aztecs, and there was a lot of chronicling of the Aztecs by different Spaniards that followed, especially their priests that followed the conquistadors. And basically, the Aztecs said their entire civilization was built by giants.
So do you believe me now? Scripture clearly shows you that giants were on the earth. And I truly do believe out of Genesis chapter 6, the sons of God were fallen angels that rebelled against God. In fact, if you look into more information like the Dead Sea Scrolls, they talk about the giants pre-flood were about 2 miles high. That's how tall they were. No wonder Flavius Josephus said they resembled Greek mythology. So now are you actually ready to hear the story of what happened? How come Enoch didn't die? Is he coming back in the end days? How did the Nephilim live after the flood? Since Genesis 6 said they were there before the flood and after, but everyone died except Noah and his family. These are going to be tough questions we're going to dive into, but I'm so excited. What I need you to do is, if you see this button right here, click it, okay? Click it, because it's going to take you to my page on YouTube. You just click subscribe. Well, first you got to have a Gmail account. You click subscribe. It's all free. And so every time I post a new video, it's going to update you and you'll be able to learn more. Okay, so next week we're going to do part 2 and actually get into the story. And we're going to answer these very tough questions. But I hope you enjoyed this whole message, this whole lesson. I'm sure for some of you it may have shocked you because you've never heard it before. But I'm telling you, it's going to get a lot more interesting. So remember, Jesus said the end days will be like the days of Noah. What is coming back in the end days that was like the days of Noah and Enoch? Crazy, exciting things. All right, well, I really hope you enjoyed this message. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week. Okay, so before you go, I just got one more thing to tell you. Look, if you enjoyed this series or you enjoy my lessons, but you would like to hear them more in a church setting or a conference setting, then all you have to go to is our website, which is authenticministry.com. Once you go and hit contacts, you'll see Bobby Chandler Ministries pop up. You go to my webpage, you scroll down, and you can click book. Also, it'll give you a lot of added information about who I am and my background. So I really hope you enjoyed this lesson. A lot of people also want to subscribe to our page, but they do not know how. So first of all, let me explain. The first step you have to take is a Gmail account, which is your email, and it's free. So you create that, then you go to the YouTube page, and you sign in and create your own YouTube account. You'll have your username and everything, and once that is set up, then you can go to my page and click subscribe. And that way, every week, you'll see a new video and a new lesson. And I'll make it simple for you. Here it is right here. Subscribe. Just click it and it'll take you directly to my page. But before you leave, are you sure you don't want to watch this? So is it possible that your curse words are an actual curse that could open up doors for demons to attack? Check out this sermon I preached on the riverfront downtown.